All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. We will begin this webinar. We have Mike Netherclift with North Central Florida Wrestling Officials Association with us tonight. Thank you, Mike, for joining us and putting this together for us. Similar to last year, we hope all of you are doing well and safe out there. If you have any questions regarding the webinar, please feel free to put that in the Q&A box. We'll answer those if they're specific to the slides that are being covered at that time, more than likely. If there are any general FHSA ones, we'll discuss those at the end. Mike does plan to have us or give us some time at the end for questions and further Q&A time there at the end. So again, thank you for being here tonight. I'm going to turn it over to Mike for the presentation.
Hey guys, welcome. I hope all you guys are having a great summer. Welcome to this Zoom webinar. I'm going to let you guys be my guinea pigs tonight. I've created a new presentation on mechanics and positioning, and I hope that you guys find this very informative and very instructive. My goal is to make it under 45 minutes or less, and then as Jeremy had indicated, we'll have some time for questions if we need to. I know most of you guys are very busy. Some of you have families, and your time is valuable. I want to get you back to your families. This is a little bit about my officiating experience. I've been a coach, I've been a wrestler and an official. I started officiating in 1981. I represent North Central Florida Wrestling Officials, and I took a few years off, but I have a total years of 34 years reffing with the FHSA. Okay, my purpose tonight is to reach two groups. The first group is those officials that have experience of 1 to 3 years. And what I'd like to do is I hope this presentation will provide a foundation for the mechanics and positioning that you need to officiate a proficient, safe, and consistent match. And then secondarily, for this veteran officials, typically 4 years or more, I want to provide a refresher review, some of the basics, and allow you to reflect on your current mechanics and positioning and see if there's any room for you to make a self-analysis or some improvement and to be introspective, and hopefully gain some points from tonight that will help you for this upcoming year. The important thing is we've never reached the top. All of us have weaknesses, all of us have strengths. Try to continue to learn, try to continue to grow in your officiating craft. All right. Pretty much all of us have a pretty good sense of what mechanics and positioning is. It's pretty self-explanatory. However, I wanted to break it down to its simplest form. In high school wrestling, mechanics are the steps, the procedures, the actions that we do to officiate a match. Positioning is the location where you should be during the match. So we're going to cover some of those highlights tonight, and hopefully, as I said, this will be informative and instructive for you, the official. My goals, I have 6 different topics I want to cover tonight, and I want you to understand and demonstrate the proper mat mechanics and positioning in these 6 following areas. Beginning of the match and neutral positions. Number 2, starting positions in the center of the mat. During the match with live wrestling. Resuming the match from out of bounds situations. And at the end of the match procedure, and finally, mechanics and positioning of the assistant referee. My main goal tonight, my major desired outcome, is for you to have the skills and the ability to effectively manage your match. All right, what are some general guidelines we need to consider with respect to mechanics and positioning? First of all, when you arrive at the site, your jurisdiction starts. When you walk in the gym, you should be professional. You should be well-groomed. You should be neat. You should be firm. You should take charge, but you should also be kind and you should be polite. The wrestling mat is your domain. Many years ago, I was watching, they had a ceremony for Hall of Fame linebacker, Lawrence Taylor. and they had him out at the Giant Stadium, and they asked him to speak. And the first thing he said is, "Welcome to my house." Well, when you walk in the gym and you walk on the mat is your house. The coach and the school is leasing that mat to you for the next number of hours for you to call a proficient, safe, and consistent wrestling match. So take charge. Don't be timid. Be firm, but as always, be polite. Second, you need to understand the angles and distance involved in mechanics and positioning. If you have the right understanding of angles, you'll know the proper position to see violations, make out of bounds calls. If you know the proper distance, you can see locking hands. There's kind of a misnomer that the closer you are, the better you're going to see things. And an inexperienced official is going to be too close, and you actually lose some of the vision that you would see otherwise if you're back at a proper distance. So try not to be too close to the wrestlers. Number 3, always hustle, always be in good position. I like to call it happy feet. You should always be moving your feet to get in the most optimum position you can to call the match. Fourthly, you need to anticipate the action. Most of us that are officials have wrestled, so we have the experience of understanding if a top man puts in a near side cradle, you should be able to anticipate where he's going to go with that. If a top guy's working a tilt, you should be able to anticipate where he's going to go with that tilt. So anticipation is key to being in the proper position and demonstrating the proper mechanics. And then ultimately, our number one goal is to keep safety is our number one priority. If you can leave the match, leave the site that night, and no one got hurt, and you called a good match, and there was no injuries, you had a really good night. So keep safety is your number one priority. Number 6, proper positioning for preventative officiating. Just the mere fact that you're in the right position can cause wrestlers not to make violations that would maybe occur if you were otherwise in a bad position. Out of bounds situations, your positioning can help keep a wrestler from being injured because you're showing the proper positioning to avoid the wrestlers getting hurt. Out of bounds calls, very critical in high school wrestling. It's important that you're in the right position to see the points of support, the wrestler supporting points, and to see the action that's occurring as they go out of bounds. Always use the proper wrestling signals, the authorized signals. How many signals are there? There's actually 28. My wife always knows when wrestling season is starting because she'll come into the guest room we have. She'll hear me blowing the whistle. We have a full-length mirror in there, and I practice all the signals. I try to make them crisp. I try to make them properly, and I try to really have my signals worked out before I go and start my season. This is an area that I've seen in the statewide that we've done a pretty good job cleaning up over the last 3 years. So that's very, very crucial that we show and demonstrate the proper signals. It's the way of effectively communicating with the wrestlers and with the coaches and the fans, and it makes you look professional, and it makes you look like you're in charge. All right, some other considerations. Always perform a good pre-match. When you get to the site, make sure you identify who the administrator is in charge. If there's an appropriate healthcare professional or certified trainer, go talk to them and go over the duties and what you expect of them. Make sure you're doing a good pre-match with the table. You're going over scoring. You're going over blood time and injury and what you expect of them. Tell the table that they are indeed officials and you expect them to focus and pay attention during the match. You need to check wrestlers for illegal pads and taping and bracing for objectionable equipment. You need to possibly do the random draw if it's a dual meet or dual meet tournament. There's a lot of duties that you have to perform and get those done, which if you're doing them properly, it sets a good tone for your professionalism and keeping you in the match and the coaches and wrestlers respecting what you're doing. All right, we already talked about the score table. Depending on where you go, I don't know if it's going to be a big issue this year, but be aware of COVID considerations. If you go out of town, you go to a different district, you may need to wear a mask when you're off the mat. There may be some things that you have to do. So it's a good idea to make sure that you know what the COVID considerations are where you're going to go referee your match. Okay, during the match, try not to be a sportscaster. This is something I've had to work on over the years because I tend to be very vocal. The acronym ACCI is basically really the only things you should command to the wrestlers during the match. They're very neutral. They're not coaching either kid. And that's action, center, contact, and improve. Try not to do a lot of talking on the match and be a sportscaster. Know your rules. Read your case book. Know how the rules and the situations apply. Know the spirit. Know the intent of the rules and how they match the actual rule in the case book. Read your wrestling manual that's in the case book. The wrestling manual is in the back. I bet there's some officials that never even read it. And it will give you a lot of good tips on how you work your mechanics and your positioning throughout the match. And for some of you that don't know this, FHA actually puts out a officials guidebook that you can get off the FHSA site through Arbiter that goes over some of the differences that apply to Florida with respect to weighing in, challenging minimum weight, weigh-ins and eligibility and things of that nature that can come up in a tournament you should verse yourself with. In addition, the coaches have a wrestling manual that you can look at on the FHSA website you should familiarize yourself with. So if you know all those documents in and out, you've really got a good handle on what's going on with the sport of wrestling. All right, let's start the actual mechanics and positioning portion. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to talk about beginning of the match from a neutral position. So you're going to start the match. The wrestlers come to the center. You should be facing the scores table. The wrestlers are between you and the scores table, and you're looking at the scores table. And I remind the scores table at the end of every period at the start of the match to always give me eye contact so there's no problems that develop. So I glance at the scores table and I direct the wrestlers to shake hands. Now understand in COVID, they may not have to shake hands. If they want to shake hands, that's fine. They don't have to shake hands if they don't want to. All right. Then you should move in between the wrestlers. And what I do is, you don't have to do this, but what I do is I put my arm out. So my arm is in the front of each wrestler. So I know they're not going to false start. When I know that the wrestlers are ready, I say set, and then I give signal number one. The signal number one is, for lack of a better word, is the karate chop with your palm facing out to the side. You give a brisk whistle, very vocal whistle, and you move your hand up in the air. You should not be moving out to the side. You should not be moving your fist down. It's just a up vertical signal, and then you retreat back to a proper distance watching the kids. All right. During the match, when they're in a neutral position, it's very important you have happy feet and you move actively side to side. You want to try to look in between the wrestlers while they're wrestling. You need to not be too close. You need to be back where you can see things, and you need to be back far enough where you're not impeding the wrestlers. Be aware of the boundary lines and the supporting points of the wrestlers. During neutral position, you need to be aware in a position to watch to see if one of the wrestlers is blocking with their forearm or blocking with their head, or is grabbing the other wrestler's hands and not making an attempt to make a takedown. Are they backing out? Are they not trying to secure a takedown? If that's the case, then you would warn them for stalling. Okay, this is a problem that occurs sometimes. This can also happen from the down position and the starting position. But you have two kids that I affectionately call puppies in a wet rock, and you start the action in a neutral position, and all of a sudden they bolt directly 180 degrees away from you to the opposite boundary line. And there's no way, without you getting in the right position, that you can see the supporting points or what's going on to make an effective call at the edge of the mat. So my advice to you is, when that happens and you can't catch up, you look for the nearest boundary line that you can get to. You go to that boundary line and get the best angle. This is where angles come in. Get the best angle that you can see the supports, supporting points, and make the call with the right angle so you can see and observe what's going on. You may be further back, but it's actually a better position there than trying to make a call when the kids are directly in front of you and they're going out of bounds. All right, now we're going to talk about starting positions down on the mat. We may have an out of bounds situation. The period may expire. We have a restart from a violation. Maybe there's a stalemate. Referee stops the match. There's a myriad of examples. But nonetheless, we're going to take the wrestlers back to the center and we're going to start the match in the starting position from the center of the mat. The first thing we do is we get the defensive wrestler set first. And what I do is I tell the defensive wrestler, I say, assume a legal starting position. Let the bottom guy get set. All right. Once he's assumed the legal starting position, you tell the top man, assume a legal starting position. All right. Once both wrestlers are set, you give a verbal command according to the case book, and you say set. And that notifies the wrestlers that you're ready to blow the whistle. Watch for rolling starts, watch for unfair advantages, watch for improper positioning, and penalize accordingly. If it's in a proper position, you would give them the caution signal. Once they're set, you do signal number one again, briskly, straight up vertically, and you start the match. Okay, what should your positioning be during the starting position? The best practice is to position yourself when the wrestlers are down in the starting position at 10 o'clock or 2 o'clock based on the near side of the wrestlers. So 90% of the time, the wrestler has the near side, whatever that near side is, that's where the action is going to go. So you can anticipate where the action is going to go. So for example, you started both the wrestlers in the down position, and when you're facing the wrestler, you should be at 10 o'clock or 2 o'clock. And if the near side is on the right side of the wrestlers, and you're looking at them and it's on the right, you're going to be at 2 o'clock. If the near side for the wrestlers is on your left side looking at the wrestlers, then you're going to be at 10 o'clock. Okay, the optimum distance is to be between the boundary line, the outside boundary line, and where the wrestlers are in the center of the mat. So you want to be equal distance positioned at 10 or 2 o'clock between the boundary line and where the wrestlers are positioned. Remember, if the wrestlers start the match and you're too far back, they can be 30 feet away from you in 1 second. So it's very critical that you anticipate where they're going to go and you're being in a position that you can see the action, you can see violations and what you need to see during the match. When you do the whistle start, you need to remain still. A couple of years ago, the state tournament, I got evaluated. They said I was moving during my starting positions. And I said, I don't feel like I'm moving. And I watched the video, and indeed I was actually moving. So this is a little tip. When you're ready to start the wrestlers, turn your feet out like a duck. And that will keep you from maybe fidgeting and moving a little bit, and it'll help you cut down on your movement. Remember, you don't want to be the cause for a caution. And then finally, it seems like over the years, we've built this adversarial relationship with wrestlers and coaches with respect to starting positions. When you start the wrestlers, you want the start to be smooth. You don't want there to be a disruption. Remember, you want optimum match management. It is actually okay for the wrestlers to guess your whistle. If they do that, that gives a rhythm and a flow to the match where you don't have to disrupt the match because of cautions and false starts and whatnot. So if they can guess your match, your start, your whistle, that's acceptable. Okay. We don't want to try to catch them doing wrong and disrupt the match. So if they're trying to guess your whistle, as long as everything is going smoothly and there's no false starts, then that's great. Okay, what's the mechanics and positioning during the match, during live wrestling down on the mat? Okay, make sure, this is critical, you're always have visual contact with the wrestlers at all times, especially out of bounds. We're going to talk more about that in a little bit. Make sure you're demonstrating APA. Be alert, be in proper position, and make sure you anticipate where the action is going to go. As I said earlier, don't be too close to the action. Maintain a position in front of the wrestlers so you're far enough back, you can see everything develop, but not be so close that you're impeding the motion of the wrestlers. So you want to be always looking for locked hands, looking for violations, be in a position where you can see all the action. Inexperienced officials and younger officials tend to want to be too close, and it's not a good situation. Try to avoid what I call ring around the rosies, pocket full of posies. We get those puppies in a wet rock, or some wrestlers, and then on the start, they're just going in circles and they're chasing each other around the mat. And then you see an inexperienced official who's following them, running around the mat, following them the whole time. When what you actually should be doing is, if they're doing that, you need to stop your movement, let the action come back to you, and try to maintain that front position. If you prefer, if the action is going in a circle, you can actually go in the opposite direction to catch up even quicker. Whatever it is that you do, just make sure you're trying to get in that optimum position. Always be in a position to stop potentially dangerous and illegal holds. Always use the proper signals. Now, I don't have my box on here, but I assume you guys can see me. For purposes of this presentation, I really don't have time to go over all the signals, but signals are very critical. For example, if you have a takedown, which is signal number 22, if you have a takedown and one wrestler has control over the other wrestler down the mat, you would raise your arm straight up above your head. I don't know if you guys can see me on the video, but you raise your arm straight up over your head, give the peace sign, or the two, you verbalize the 2 points. Then you can do a quarter turn back and forth so everybody sees that it's a 2-point takedown. Your position should not be like this with your hands near your face or down at your side. You should have your hand fully extended up in the air where everybody can see them, and you turn your fingers back and forth. And you do, according to the casebook, you verbalize the takedown. One of the reasons why you want to verbalize the takedown, or two, is if you have a wrestler who takes a kid down and he has locked hands around both legs, before you designate control, that allows that wrestler to know that he has control and he can release, gives him an opportunity to release the locked hands. Okay, on a reversal, signal number 18, you're on the mat, bottom man gets a reversal. Okay, you actually put your hands with your fists locked in a tight spiral in front of your body. Okay, but first, when you recognize reversal, just like you did in a takedown, you raise your hand up, straight up, signify 2 points. Okay, and then you do the reversal signal in front of your body. It's not this. This looks lazy. Doesn't look professional. It's not this. And you, whenever you're calling a takedown, a reversal, or escape, you award the points first, and then you give the signal secondarily. The exception would be on a violation like locking hands. I think locking hands is number 17. You're going to call technical violations, which is signal 19. And if they're on the mat, you have to stop the match. So signal 2 is I stop the match, stop. Okay. And unlike the takedown, reversal, and the neutral position, you're going to give the technical violation first before the points. So I'm going to go stop. We have a technical violation. Notice that it's a straight T directly in front of my chest, just below my chin. Shouldn't be way up here in the air, shouldn't be off to the side. Right in front of your body, right here, just below your chin. We don't tap like this. This is not an authorized signal. Technical violation. And if red locked hands, you extend your arm up 1 point for green, and then you give the locking hands signal, which is just above the head out in front of you. It's not in front of your body. It's not down here at your waist. It's not right here. It's up right here. Make sure those signals are crisp and accurate. Okay, if you have to go to the scores table during the match, you need to direct the wrestlers to stay in the 10-foot circle. While they're in a 10-foot circle and you're taking care of your business at the table, you need to take a look back at the wrestlers and keep your eye on them, almost turn your back on the table and keep your eye on the wrestlers. Okay, any action near a boundary line, Again, be aware of the supporting points. Be aware of safety for the wrestlers. Your position should be to the out of bounds side of the wrestlers, or even you could straddle the line if you're in good position. If you can see the points of support, wrestlers supporting parts, and you can see all the action, then that's an acceptable position. If they go out of bounds, you signal stop, give the out of bounds signal, and then direct them back to the center of the mat. We're going to talk more about that in a minute. Okay, caution for a false start or improper starting position. Okay, this is something that having a conversation with Bob Whitaker, our state rules interpreter, he's suggesting that we consider as officials is a number of us, when we start the match from the starting position, the center of the mat, we're kind of our own worst enemies, whereby we are, if we have a false start or in a proper position, we start the whole process over. We walk back to the center, we tell the bottom man to assume a legal position. Then we have the top guy reset, and then we do all that. It becomes a little redundant. That can affect your match flow, and it really doesn't look that good as far as the optics on the mat. So what Bob Whitaker is suggesting that we do is, if you have a false start, go ahead and give them their caution, penalize the wrestler, and then let the wrestlers reset themselves. You can give the command, okay, guys, reset. Give them a chance to reset. And then once you think they're set, you're in the right position, you would say set, and then immediately blow your whistle, giving signal number 1. Injury and blood time. Okay, if you have injury or blood time during the match, during live wrestling, you're going to give stop the match signal. Okay, if it's blood time and say green is bleeding, you would give at a right angle with your finger pointing up, circular motion, blood time, green. If it's red, right angle, finger pointing up, blood time, red. If it's recovery time, it's the opposite. If it's, did I say blood time? I meant injury time. This is injury time. I apologize if I said blood time. So this is injury time, red, injury time, green. Blood time, green, would take your right hand, the green armband, and you would touch your nose. Blood time, red, touch your nose on your left side. That's the signal for blood time. Sorry about that, guys. And then as I give that signal, then I leave the wrestlers and I go to the scores table and monitor the injury time, the recovery time, or the blood time during the match. Don't be a doctor. Don't be a medic. Stay out of the what's going on. You can monitor the time. You can allow the coaches and wrestlers how much time is left during injury and blood time. Do not stand with the wrestlers. Okay, resuming the match from out of bounds. As I said, always keep your eyes on wrestlers after the out of bounds. Always be ahead of the wrestlers or walk back with the lead wrestler who's going to the center circle first. And you always want to keep your eye on the wrestlers. The first time you don't look at the wrestlers on an out of bounds situation, you walk back to the center mat. You're not looking and the other kid punches the other kid. You just missed a possible flagrant misconduct situation or unsportsmanlike conduct situation that you didn't see. So it's imperative that you're always keeping your eye on the wrestlers after out of bounds situations. Remind the wrestler who's in control, and again, set the bottom man and set the top man. All right. What are the procedures after the end of the first period? Okay. And we're going to talk about two things here. We're going to talk about tournaments, and we're going to talk about dual matches. Okay. In a tournament, okay, at the end of the first period, in a tournament, an IBT tournament, you're actually going to flip the disc to determine who has choice at the second period. Okay. These are things that are best practices and the proper procedures to follow. When you flip the disc, make sure when the disc hits the mat, you leave it on the mat. So it flips you flip the disc and it's green's choice. You're going to point to green. Green, you want, and ask them specifically this question. Point your armband at the wrestler. Green, do you want top, bottom, neutral, or do you want to defer your choice? Some of the times after out of bounds situations or after the first period, these kids are tired and they really don't have a clue. So don't make the mistake of just pointing at the wrestler and say, green, it's your choice. assist them by asking them the question. Let them give you the answer. And when they give you the answer, if they're kind of fumbling around, try not to be a hard ass and, not be flexible. If the kid says I want up, but what he meant was actually he wants neutral, give him a chance, give him an opportunity. Don't delay the match, but give him a chance, an opportunity to get that right, so you get the positioning the way it ought to be. When you're giving the wrestler the choice, make sure you're not looking at the coach. The coach should not be telling you what the kid's choice is going to be. Let the kid tell you what he wants, and then once you accept it, that's the way it's going to be. Okay, then you quickly restart the match and you keep your flow going in the match. I don't want to say there's only a rigid way to do this, but I know some of you have your styles and things that you do that work for you. So I think whatever best works for you is what you need to do. But once I flip the disc and I've determined who has choice, and we restart the match and the second period is over and we go to the third period, one of the ways that you can disrupt your match management and really just get out of the zone and just make things really kind of haphazard and disheveled is not to know the choice at the end of each period. So one of the tips I'd like to give you is, if green had the choice second period and we're going into the third period, it's third period's choice. If you put your disc, if it's red's choice for the third period, put the disc in your left pocket at the end of the second period, knowing that the disc is in your left pocket, left hand is your red armband, you would know third period's red's choice, and vice versa with green in your right pocket. For dual meet, when we have a random draw or dual meet tournament and we have even odd matches choice, there's a myriad of ways to do this. One of the things I've done in the past is I have a card based on the first weight class. I know who's going to have the choice the second period each match. So at the end of the match, I can quickly look at the card. It will tell me which weight class, the next weight class, who has choice. And then again, I would put my flip disc, just like I did for the IBT for the third period. I'd put my flip disc in the pocket corresponding with whoever has the third period choice. I hope that makes sense. Do what works for you, but whatever it is, make sure you consistently do it, and you do it in a fashion that doesn't disrupt the flow and the ebb and flow of your match. All right, into match procedures. This is pretty cut and dry. After the match is over, you direct your wrestlers to the center of the mat. Because of COVID, there's kind of some liberal procedures now. Again, if the kids want to shake hands, they can. Walking off, you might remind them to disinfect their hands because they're teenagers and they don't have a clue. You can raise the winner's hand, or you can allow the wrestler who won to raise their own hand. So you pretty much have the option of doing what you want with that. And then obviously you're going to direct the wrestlers to shake hands or not shake hands, and again, raise the winner's hands or let them raise their hands themselves. Okay, this is a critical area, mechanics with respect to the coach referee conference at the head table. Okay, the coach may come to the scores table during the match anytime he wishes. And by the way, a lot of people say coach cannot question judgment. Well, coach can question judgment. It's just if he questions judgment, there's going to be a penalty because of his questioning the judgment. So it's really inaccurate to say he can't question the judgment. He can question judgment. It's just he will be penalized, or he should be penalized if the coach is doing that. But the coach comes to the table. He has the right to come to the table. You do not shush the coach back. You don't get in an altercation with him, tell him he has to go sit down. I've seen a lot of officials say, coach, go sit down. You don't have the authority to tell him to do that. So if he comes to the table, the first opportune time, you stop the match when there's no significant action going on. Direct the wrestlers to stay in the 10-foot circle, the center of the mat, like we talked about earlier. If it's a match where you have an assistant referee, you should direct your assistant referee to go to the 10-foot circle while they monitor the wrestlers as you go to the table. As you walk up to the table, the coach is animated. Be very careful of the body language you're showing. Your body language, your inflection in your voice can actually escalate an animated coach. So watch your body position, be professional, be calm, And when you get to the table, let the coach say what he needs to say. Don't prejudge, listen actively. Let him say everything he needs to say as long as he's not delaying the match. Okay, once he said his piece, obviously you're going to be polite and firm, but you're going to give your response. Now, whatever happens once you give the response, after you give the response, will dictate what's going to happen next. If the coach accepts your response and he goes back and sits down, you immediately go back to the center of the mat and resume your match. If the coach begins to question your judgment, says, "Oh no, but this happened. You missed that. I don't think that happened." If he's questioning your judgment, now we have a penalty. Be very careful not to, when you administer this penalty, be very careful not to inflame the coach. So what you're going to do is you're going to step away from the coach's area and away from the scores table. You're going to go near the boundary line, near the scores table, and you're going to signal misconduct, your arm pointed straight out to the side, fists clenched, and you're going to say, "We have misconduct on green, coach." Okay. If he continues on, you have the authority to hit him for misconduct again, which would be a team point. If he becomes unsportsmanlike, he's inciting the crowd, he's using vulgar language, he's disrupting the flow of the match. Now we've entered into the realm of unsportsmanlike conduct, which you would give this signal with your palm facing down, the karate chop, palm facing down, your arm straight out to the side, green. If it's green, to your left if it's red. The thing you don't want to do is you don't want to be at the table getting into a long drawn out debate or argument over what happened. Listen to the coach, tell him what you saw, make your decision. If you misapplied a rule, please leave your ego at the gym door. If you screwed up and you misapplied a rule, correct it properly and get the match started again. If you know you messed up, but you're going to be really rigid and not change the call, that's a great way to escalate the situation and lose the respect of the coach. If he's being unsportsmanlike, penalize him accordingly. If he's being flagrantly unsportsmanlike, again, this is a signal for flagrant misconduct, green, flagrant misconduct, red, and then you would go to the scores table and take care of the proper scoring related to the team points and what needs to happen. All right. So misconduct, step back away from the coach, go to near the boundary line, make your signal for misconduct for coach, and then resume the match. All right. Okay. Positioning for the assistant referee. Couple of things. Keep your whistle inside your shirt. You don't want to inadvertently blow your whistle while the lead official is calling the match. Again, watch your body language. If I'm a coach and I see you with your arms crossed, I see your hands in your pocket, and I see you mopey dopey, what your body language is telling me, you're not into this match. And I'm probably not going to get that marginal call. I'm not going to have an extra set of eyes watching what's going on. So make sure you look alert, make sure you're standing straight up and act like you're into the match and be in good position. And of course, we watch what we say. Be careful what you say to your official, that only he can hear you during the match. Do not talk to the coaches as you are the assistant referee while you're the assistant referee. Okay, during the match, you want to mirror the lead official. You want to try to keep yourself at a 180-degree angle. Try to keep the wrestlers between you and the lead official. Okay, verbal communication with the head official is okay. This is another one of my pet peeves. Again, lead officials, leave your ego at the gym door. If the assistant referee comes up to you during the match, he says, "I got red backing off stalling," or I had locking hand, or I had whatever, and you tell the lead official, he does not have to accept what you're telling him, but you're obligated to tell him what you saw. I hate it when I get off a match and I have a assistant referee come to me when the match is over and says, "You know, in that match, I would have called stalling on that kid." And then my first response is, "Well, why in the hell didn't you tell me during the match what you thought?" So to me, that's unacceptable. So if you're the assistant referee and you see something, tell the head official. Okay. only signal, the only authorized signal that the assistant referee uses is when the bottom wrestler has locked hands, the top man, the offensive wrestler has locked hands down on the mat, and he's moving away from the lead official. So a good example would be top man is riding the defensive wrestler, and the defensive wrestler does a sit out. The top man locks hands. You cannot see if you're the lead official, if it happens real quick, but when he sits out, the assistant referee sees it very clearly. That's when you would give the locked hands signal, and then the lead official would accordingly stop the match and administer the penalty. Anytime during the match, if you need to discuss something, the head official feels obligated to stop the match and chat about it. Make sure you quietly talk so no one hears you, away from the scores table and away from the coaches at the edge of the mat. Remember, as the assistant referee, you can support, you can disagree, or you can have no opinion about what happened during the match. I am not a big proponent of don't tell me you have no opinion. If you have no opinion, there's a good chance you weren't watching the match. That's not going to help me at all. Coaches conference procedures. Okay. You have assistant referee and the lead official stops a match and he has to go to the scores table. Maybe he has to go to the table to talk to the coach, or maybe there's a scoring issue, whatever it is. The lead official goes to the table. You go with the wrestlers and you stand with the wrestlers in the center of the mat. During the match, be aware of the clock. Assist the head official with scoring situations if he needs you. Okay. Make sure the lead official signals the points. Make sure the scores table is recording them properly. Boundary calls, boundary line calls. You want to draw in, get close, have the wrestlers between you. So both of you, the lead official and the assistant referee, can see the supporting parts of each wrestler in the action as they go out of bounds, and be aware that you may need to be in a position to help keep the wrestlers from getting injured off the mat. Be able to see both wrestlers, the referee, and the scoreboard in time at the conclusion of the match. Probably my most memorable match I ever had was state finals in 2003 between the Grajales kid from Brandon. He was 44-0. And a kid from St. Thomas Aquinas, he was 42-0, and combined, both kids were almost 90-0 for the season. And I called their match, and that back then we had the 1-1-1 overtime, and then the ultimate, like we do now, still the 30-second ultimate tiebreaker. So we go tied all the way to the ultimate tiebreaker, and the St. Thomas kid, with about 2 or 3 seconds to go, gets in a position where he comes from the bottom and basically completed a reversal, but he kind of held it, and he was in a position where we had a loss of control. And when I awarded the loss of control, that obviously gave him the match, because the first one to score won the match. And immediately thereafter, the tile tapper, who was a certified official, had actually gotten his foot stuck in the bleachers, and he was unable, in his mind, to tap me in time. So he taps me. I've already awarded the escape. St. Thomas kid believes that he's won. And the towel tapper taps me. And then what I didn't want to hear, an instant later, he says, "Mike, I think I tapped you too late." So I had to determine a state championship on whether or not time had expired based on the towel tapper tapping me time. And after having a conference with my assistant referee, who was Wayne Garber from the Orlando Association at the time, Wayne said, "Nope, you called the call right. There was still time left, and it's a good call." Had he not been paying attention to what was going on, that could have been a disastrous situation. So kudos to him. He was paying attention. He was watching the clock. He was watching the time, and he was able to assist me in a very tough situation. Pinning situation, assistant referee, it's very important that you compliment the official who's looking for the fall or near fall, that you're down near the feet and you're looking for violations that might be occurring during the match. All right, so be in good position during that situation. As the assistant referee, make sure you're practicing the first on, last off procedure, particularly at the end of the match. the match is over, the official is certifying and reviewing and making sure the score is correct. The referee raises the winner's hand. The referee goes to the score table as the coaches and the wrestlers are leaving the area. The assistant referee should be moving in on the mat behind the 10-foot circle, looking at the table, looking at the wrestlers leaving the mat area, and looking at the coaches leaving the mat area, and make sure everything goes smooth there. So it's first on, last off. All right, what are some common mistakes we see with positioning and mechanics? First of all, you shouldn't have a green whistle, right? Are you supposed to wear sunglasses on the mat? That looks like a mistake. All right, officials are too close to the wrestling, which means you're probably missing things because you don't have the right distance. You're probably missing locked hands. You want to be in a safe distance so you're not impeding the wrestlers as well. Near fall situations on a scramble. Newer officials, inexperienced officials, you have a scramble and you have the bottom man gets a reversal and immediately puts the top man on his back in a near fall or potential pinning combination. And the lead official is still signaling what happened on the near fall. Meanwhile, the top guy's got the bottom guy on a near fall situation, and we may have like a 3 or 4 count that you haven't even seen yet. So it's very imperative that you prioritize the near fall, get in a position to see the near fall. You can signal with your arm the near fall, even though you're not in a position to see the fall yet. So make sure you hustle and you can signal. And while you're signaling 1001, 1002, you can take your other hand, it'd be opposite hands depending on the color, and just put your hand up, signifying 2 to the scores table. Hold that up. They get the 2 reversal while you're still not missing the near fall. And you're 1001, 1002, and you're in position to see the near fall or the pin. You can always stop the match at the end of the situation and go up and review it with the score table to get it right. Being out of position, lack of hustle. It's been my experience, if you are hustling and you're in position and you're really working hard to give your all in a match, if you have a marginal out of bounds call or you have a close call, it's been my experience that most coaches, even though they know the call went against them and it's a marginal call, they're probably going to leave you alone because you've demonstrated that you're in position, you know what's going on, you're hustling, you're going to get that coach to give you a little bit of grace in that marginal call situation. And again, out of bounds situations, do not turn your back on the wrestlers. Watch the wrestlers all the way back to the center circle, try to be ahead of them. Okay, lack of managing the match. You know, this has happened to all of us where we have lulls or we just have brain farts. We get fatigued and we get tired, so we have to pay really close attention and make a concerted effort to have a flow and ebb and flow to the match and concentrate, know consistently what you're going to do to remember who's in control, who's up, who's down. Try to be consistent with what you do each and every time so you can avoid these situations where you have confusion in a match. Stalling in the ultimate tiebreaker. I would think by now, most of the officials in Florida understand the ultimate tiebreaker, but apparently different areas of the country in different parts of our state, there are people who still don't understand what happens in stalling during the ultimate tiebreaker. Unlike the regular match, when you have the ultimate tiebreaker, 30 seconds, basically it's very simple. The top man is allowed to ride the bottom man. The bottom man is trying to get escape or reversal and get away. First one who scores wins the match, and they have 30 seconds to do so. So the only time you're going to call stalling on the top man is in a situation where the bottom man stands up or the top man's riding him and he drops down to the ankle and he's lacing the ankle and he's buried in on the ankle and he's just holding it. So the first time it happens, you want to call it pretty quickly because you only have 30 seconds. First time the stalling happens, you're going to give the signal stalemate, and then you're going to restart the kids once again. The second time it happens, if there's time left, now you can hit the top guy for stalling, and that would be the proper call. All right, so why is all this important to all of us? first of all, good signals, good positioning, good mechanics, good procedures makes you look professional. And that's what it's all about. 2, it helps wrestlers, coaches, and fans be confident that they're going to get a fair shake, a good, consistent match from you, the official. It also helps the official call a safe match, a proficient match. And it helps you reach our ultimate goal of good match management. Okay, we're wrapping this up. Some of the references, make sure you're reading the FHSA rule book. The FHSA casebook and manual goes over a lot of the positioning and mechanics you should be following. They're pretty straightforward, pretty simple to go by. I want to thank Bob Whitaker for his assistance in some of the areas of the slide that we spoke of. Bob, by the way, is a valuable resource. For those of you that don't know, he's our state rules interpreter. The nice thing about Bob, he's very accessible and he's very willing to talk to you. To my knowledge, the guy never sleeps, so you can call him just about any time of the day. And if he doesn't answer, he'll call you right back. And he has a wealth of information to help you become a better official. All right, so how do we get better? All right, you need mat time. Practice these concepts on the mat. Go to field clinics. Watch the internet. There's a lot of videos on YouTube and different wrestling websites where you can watch officials. Try to pick out things that they're doing good. Pick out things that they're doing wrong that will help you become a better official. Good idea. I presume there's some off-season folk style tournaments in our area. Go there and work the bugs out. Another one of my pet peeves is I think the kids start practice next week. They have about a month of practice before the first matches. So they have some sort of level of preparation. I think it's a really bad thing for an official to show up at his first match and he's not been on the mat. He's not done any kind of work or anything at all to dust off the cobwebs after sitting out. So those folk style tournaments are important. If you have any local coaches that you respect or are in good with, a lot of the coaches I know in my area, I'll call some of the coaches and they'll allow me to come do some of the wrestle offs. And I use that time to educate the coach and the wrestlers about the new rule changes, things that are going on to help them during their match. And it allows you, as I said, to knock off those cobwebs. Video sessions. Everybody has a cell phone now. So if you're at a tournament, most of us are all doing tournaments almost every weekend. You have a buddy who's on break, ask him to take his cell phone or take your cell phone and videotape some of your matches so you can do the final thing, which is a self-analysis and a self-appraisal on how you're calling the match. And it's always a good idea to use veteran officials that you know that are top tier officials. Be careful who you ask. There's some officials that aren't top tier and you may get bad advice. So make sure you pick the right person to pick their brain. You can get a wealth of information to help you with your mechanics and your positioning. Having said all this, I want you to treat your officiating like it is an art form, not a science, but it's an art form. So again, having said that, my contact information is down here. If you need to email me or you want to call me, have any questions, please feel free to contact me. I want to thank Jeremy for allowing me to give this presentation. And I hope it was, again, instructive and informative for you as well. And I'm not sure what my time was, Jeremy, but did I hit 45?
You're a little over, but it's all right.
All right.
It's all right. We're within the hour. So if we have any questions or clarifications out there that are needed, please feel free to put those in the Q&A box. This will be posted on the FHSA Central Hub. We have recorded it, so we'll be there by the end of the day tomorrow. So if you want to share this with your association, anyone who didn't make it tonight, please feel free to do that. It'll be there for your disposal. That's the purpose of these, is to get everybody on somewhat the same page, I guess you can say, hearing the same information from one end of the state to the other. So please take advantage of these, use these. If there's anyone else out there, I know Jeremy Walton has talked about doing one here in the next couple weeks or so. So I'll work with him and possibly pin a date down, and then obviously we'll get that out to all of you. But again, thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate your time. An hour or so away from your family. Again, like Mike said earlier, when he was introducing himself, we know your time is valuable. So we try to stay on topic and to the point, and keep it within an hour, knowing that. So thank you. We appreciate everything you guys did last year. We're excited for a new season. I was talking to Mike a little bit ago about volleyball and football, obviously, in the wrapping up stages of the season, dealing with similar issues as to last year, obviously cancellations and things like that. So while the numbers of COVID are starting to trend downwards, we still are having our difficulties in not only just game cancellation and rescheduling, but still our officials, not everybody is at the same level of comfort of being out there. So we respect that. If anyone opts out due to their safety and concerns, we respect that, and wish everybody the best. And hopefully most of you know by now, Robbie is no longer the administrator for wrestling. It is Corey Sobers from our office. So between him and I, if there's any changes throughout the year before the season regarding COVID and any new things that are passed along, we will get that out to everybody. Mike said it during the presentation, there may be some counties who, like last year, are doing things a little bit different than others. So we just ask that the communication is there. Once again, this year, obviously with the schools that you work with, and individually as officials, respect everybody and their beliefs and how they're handling the situation. So again, we're excited. Thank you. I have no other questions that have come through, Mike. I'll let you wrap it up if you have anything else, and we'll head out.
No, I'm good, Jeremy, but I did have a couple of responses that were asking about getting a copy of the PowerPoint. Will you have that on the hub as well with the
yes,
YouTube
I
video?
will have that. Mike
Okay.
sent that to me last week, Mike, I believe it was.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I do. I'll tell you what I did. I updated a couple things on it, so I'll send you
Okay.
this one tonight. It's the other one's a little different in a couple respects, but I'll just send this one tonight so you'll have it.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll have a link for the actual webinar where they can watch us with you speaking, and then I'll just have it with the PowerPoint separate on its own. If they want to speak on it themselves or talk more on one thing over the other, they would have the ability to do that. So yeah, those will both be up by the end of the day tomorrow.
I think you also have a few questions directed to you.
Here we go. Corey's extension. Let me come back to that. I'll answer a few of these other ones and look up on the website at the same time. Oh, that was the only one. Mike, if you have anything to keep them entertained, I will get Corey's extension right now. Give me 1 second.
You want me to do like a song and dance? I guess what I'd say, piggybacking on what I talked about, is in the back of the case book, there's a manual that shows the signals. And I really encourage you guys, especially younger officials, really take to heart what I said. Get in front of a full-length mirror and practice those those signals until you have them crisp and you're really solid and they look exactly like they look in the back of the rule book. Just the fact that you're demonstrating the proper signals goes a long way to show, one, your communication to the coaches and wrestlers, as well as your professionalism. So that's been a big sticking point in the last few years. So really, really work on your signals, and really please try to get out and get some mat time so that by the time the season starts, you're kind of in the groove and you're not on the mat, like not with your best stuff, if you will.
Awesome. Corey's extension is 470. 470. And his email for those, if anybody wants his email, is csobers, SOBERS @fhsaa.org. So that will be his direct means of communication. All right, Mike. Well, again, appreciate you taking the time out this evening. Everyone who joined us, we appreciate you as well. So have a good night and stay safe.
All right. Thank you, Jeremy. Thanks, guys. You guys have a great season.